All right, good morning, Rutland High School, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests, and welcome to our Veterans Day ceremony here at Rutland High School. A big thank you to all of you for joining me this morning as we recognize and honor our veterans for their unwavering service to the United States of America. Across this great country and throughout the world, Americans will pause tomorrow to honor our brave fighting men and women. Please stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Actually, I'm sorry, can you just stand back up for a second? Now the RHS band will play our national anthem.
Good morning. Veterans Day, formerly known as Armistice Day, was originally set as a U.S. legal holiday to honor the end of World War I, which officially took place on November 11th, 1918. In legislation that was passed in 1938, November 11th was, quote, dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be hereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day, end quote. As such, this new legal holiday honored World War I veterans. In 1954, after having been through both World War II and the Korean War, the 83rd United States Congress, at the urging of the Veterans Service Organizations, amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting the word veterans. With the approval of this legislation on June 1st, 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. Thank you.
The Rutland High School Choir, led by Mr. Graves, will now sing Battle Hymn of the Republic.
When Francis Scott Key wrote The Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, He called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our allies and friends, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who have died in battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the more than 25 million veterans still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Quote, "Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend our freedom in a country they never knew and a people they never met in Korea." End quote. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and Gulf War veterans as well. They apply to today's active duty service members, tomorrow's veterans who are helping maintain peace throughout the world. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you.
Our first speaker today entered active duty in the United States Army in December of 1984 through Fort Dix, New Jersey, with subsequent assignment to Warrant Officer Candidate School at Fort Rucker, Alabama. He completed Rotary Wing Aviator course in May of 1986 and became a Chinook pilot assigned to the 101st Airborne Division Screaming Eagles at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He separated from active duty in May of 1990 and recalled in December of 1990 with assignment to the 6th Cavalry Brigade from Fort Hood, Texas, in support of the Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm in the First Gulf War. While assigned to Fort Hood, additionally, he spent 3 months in Honduras supporting a humanitarian mission. He separated from active duty again in 1994, followed by 2 years in the Connecticut National Guard, finally leaving the service in 1996 with 300 hours of flight time logged. Let's proudly welcome the Mayor of Rutland City, Warrant Officer Chris Loris.
Good morning. I've got to knock out first things first, and if you look to my right, your left, you'll see two gentlemen with blue pants with red stripes with no name tags. Please wish them a happy birthday because November 10th is the Marine Corps birthday. Happy birthday, gentlemen. There's a number of students here today who were born in 2001. This nation has been at war for your entire life. They're individuals who volunteered to serve and protect us, who in 2001, since 2001, have served their entire military career in a wartime environment. For someone like me, who served for 12 years, with a month watching an air war and another 4 days serving on the ground in a ground war, I just can't think of what the men and women who have volunteered to serve for the last 14 years have been going through. To put it in perspective, there are men and women who have missed their children, their sons and daughters, win league soccer championships, missed them as they won state football championships, failed to watch them perform in plays, haven't enjoyed them during concerts, have missed their birthdays, and haven't shared Thanksgiving with them. Those are the sacrifices made not just by the men and women who have served, but by their families. And just remember that, not just today, and not just every Veterans Day, but every day of your life. I was very fortunate that I've been able to see and share a lot with my family as a veteran and while I served. And right now, you frankly can't swing a dead cat without hitting a presidential candidate who's saying, we need to support our veterans, we need to do more for our veterans. But at the end of November next year, when the presidential campaign is over, it's really going to be up to you as the future leaders of our country to remember our veterans, to remember their sacrifice, and to make sure that those who have sacrificed, who have sustained wounds, both physical and psychological, who have buried friends, are given the service and support that they need and that they deserve for protecting us. So remember that about your veterans. Wish the Corps a happy birthday and happy Veterans Day.
Our next speaker currently serves as the commander for the Burlington Recruiting Company, Albany Battalion, 1st Recruiting Brigade in Burlington, Vermont. While being deployed to the Logar Province, Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, he served as the commander of Headquarters Company, Task Force 2-87, 3rd Security Force Assistance Brigade. His awards include the Expert Infantry Badge, Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Joint Service Achievement Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Humanitarian Service Medal, Military Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal, Overseas Service Ribbon, Army Service Ribbon, and the NATO Medal. Without further ado, I am pleased to present to you Army Captain Robert Jones.
It's a lot of medals when kind of lay it all out like that. As you said, I'm currently the commander of the Burlington Recruiting Company, and it gives me kind of a unique perspective because I joined 16 years ago. So for some of you who weren't even born when I joined, but that's okay, I don't take offense to that. The thing is that the reason I joined a long time ago has changed and is kind of molded over the years. But in the position I'm in right now, I see people your age that come and speak with my soldiers, and their reasons are as different as every individual in this room. And that's kind of what I want to touch upon today. So first off, ladies and gentlemen, Raiders, thank you for having me here today. Your recognition of our nation's veterans is a testament of your commitment to this great country and to those who have chosen to defend it. So first, I'd like to ask by show of hands, how many of you know a veteran? That is incredible. So my next question is, how many of you know why that veteran served? Awesome. Fewer hands though, but awesome. And the reason I ask that is the unifying theme amongst veterans is that at some point in our life, we felt the need or the call to defend this nation. Regardless of the task, we stood ready, shoulder to shoulder, to ensure the safety and well-being of Americans and our allies. I myself was raised in a military family. Both my parents served in the Air Force during the height of the Cold War. Both my grandfathers served in the Army on the battlefields of World War II and Korea. And countless others of my family members served in Vietnam and Desert Storm. So when I was your age, I kind of sat there, and in the same point, I felt a kind of a calling to the military, and so I gravitated towards it. A few short years, however, after I joined is, as your mayor mentioned, the attacks came on September 11th, 2001. That day for me galvanized my reason. Other things felt selfish, but to me, it was the fact that I had to stand up and I had to defend this country that I love so much. And so since that day, I have been honored to serve alongside the soldiers from the palm groves and streets of Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan. I have spoken with the most humble heroes who have performed amazing gallantry under the harshest conditions. And I have wept solemnly with the families of our brave fallen. The reason why a veteran has served, I believe, carries as much weight as what a veteran has done. And I believe it is important for our country to understand the reasons why our service members have chosen the life that they have. As I said before, it was a lot of awards and ribbons that Jessica mentioned. But in the end, I would trade every single one of them for the ability to continue to serve. None of those were the reason. The reason were the men and women on my left and right. And it's because in the end, our reason boils down to one thing: you, America's sons and daughters. You're the reason why we choose to stand up and fight for all that we believe in. Abraham Lincoln once stated, "Honor to the soldier and sailor everywhere who bravely bears his country's cause. Honor also to the citizen who cares for his brother in the field and serves as he best can the same cause." We, both veterans and citizens of this country, serve in the same cause. So in closing, I ask each of you to take the time to know a veteran. Not just what they've done. Afghanistan, Iraq, Desert Storm, Vietnam, those are the things we have done. Find out the reason why. Because I promise you, that experience in and of itself will be vastly rewarding. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you all have a happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Our next speaker entered boot camp in 1985 and later served in Italy, Hawaii, California, Florida, and throughout the Northeast. He retired as a Chief Warrant Officer with 30 years, 2 months, and 21 days. He was awarded 5 Coast Guard Commendation Medals and 4 Coast Guard Achievement Medals. Please welcome our very own Chief Warrant Officer, Michael Daravionic.
Good morning. My eloquence fails compared to the mayor and our last speaker. But let me start by explaining a few things about the Coast Guard. We were created in 1790 under the Secretary of Treasury, Alexander Hamilton. Since then, we've moved over to the Department of Transportation, and we now work for the Department of Homeland Security. Although we take care mainly of our shores, we have served in all of the major battles that the rest of my brethren have partaken in. I was asked to speak to you what it means to be a veteran. And it takes a lot to stand up here and explain to you why somebody chooses to join the military, why somebody chooses to go off, put themselves in harm's way and what it gets them in the end. I can't speak to the rest. I can only speak to myself. What does it mean to be a veteran? I'm honored to be a veteran. Not honored because of ceremonies of this nature, but honored knowing that I was allowed to serve my country and protect its citizens for the last 30 years. Thank you.
Our next speaker spent 23 years in the Marine Corps. He was deployed to Okinawa, Japan, Thailand, the Philippines, Hong Kong, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. His duty station assignments included Okinawa, 29 Palms, California, Ashland, Kentucky, Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, and Quantico, Virginia. Since retiring active duty in November of 2003, he has continued to work for the Marine Corps as a DoD civilian at Quantico. He was the senior enlisted Marine for a weapons platoon with 93 Marines during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and says the proudest accomplishment during his career was bringing all 93 Marines back home. Without further ado, please welcome our guest speaker, Master Sergeant Patrick Michael Hillman.
Good morning. I'm not much for standing behind a podium. Mayor Flores, again, thank you for joining us today. It means a lot. And thank you for your service. Principal Olson, I don't know where you're at. Thank you, sir, for the invitation to come back here and speak to you all on this important day. Fellow veterans, and if there's some hiding out that way, as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company. To the faculty, the students, and any other guests, good morning. You know, I was asked to be the guest speaker again, and as I always do, I try and figure out what in the world I'm going to speak about. And that constantly changes from day to day. One minute I think I have down what I want to say, and 5 minutes later it changes to something else. That continued to yesterday morning when I continued to change it. So I narrowed it down to what I want my message to be to you, and that would be to focus on the sacrifices the veterans made and why is Veterans Day important. So we know we're gathered here to honor the men and women who have served this great nation, to remember their achievements, their sacrifices. And I want to share a story with you that just, again, is why I changed my speech. Just came about 2 days ago before I came up here. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine and her son, who's a high school student down in Virginia. And she was explaining to him that I was coming up here to speak for Veterans Day. And naturally that conversation went into the sacrifices and why we thank our veterans. And he asked a question and made a comment that I thought was important to share with you, because it made me realize that maybe some of you all have that same question. And his question was, why do I need to thank the veteran for something they decided to do? They decided to enlist. Why am I thanking them for making that decision? I thought that was a good question. And again, it made me think and realize about how fast-paced society has become. And I think most of us realize the age of technology and see this quite often. What am I doing? Y'all, come on, most of you knew what I was doing. Right, we're texting. We're so focused down here to do this, get the information out quick, I gotta have it, that we lose sight of things. And we have to look up and refocus. And some type of cases, that's what we have to do, and why we have federal holidays, Veterans Day being one of them, right? We look up and we refocus our thoughts and remember. So, before I get into speaking about the veterans, do I have any family members of veterans? A whole bunch of us. I want to say thank you for the support that the Family Network provides to the veteran, for us to focus on the mission that we have. Without that support, it makes it very difficult. So I'd like to get a round of applause to all the family members. So you've gotten the history of why we have Veterans Day. So I'm not going to beat that anymore. I want this to focus on a little bit about the sacrifices that veterans made. And some of the sacrifices that I'll bring up are things that come to mind. There's other sacrifices, and keep in mind that the sacrifice level, if you will, is different for each veteran. Sacrifices, first and foremost, that come to my mind are lost family time. Things that you don't get back. The mayor mentioned it. Birthdays, anniversaries, wedding days, actual births, graduations. It was mentioned I'm the youngest of 11 kids. So naturally that's a whole bunch of events that happened. I served 23 years. That's a whole lot of opportunity for me to not be somewhere. Those are things that you don't get back. It's a one-time shot. Your graduation is a one-time deal. You're not going to get it back. If you miss a vacation, you reschedule it. But certain things, obviously, you don't get to do but one time. That's a sacrifice. To me, and well, a lot of people, that's a big sacrifice. Along those lines, are there not just happy occasions that you have to sacrifice, but those times where you're deployed and you get a call, a letter, or something that tells you that, hey, your child was sick and had to go to the doctor or had to go to the hospital. We're okay, but again, there's that family network. We're okay, you do what you gotta do. I got the home front covered. But you still sacrifice mentally. You're thinking, I'm not there to do my job as a parent. Why am I making this sacrifice? It's for that greater cause, right? The bigger picture. I'm not focused down here. I look up. I sacrifice for the greater cause, the country, the freedom. Some other sacrifices. Free time in the military. Not always just free time, okay? You may go places where you have curfews, believe it or not, where you have to be on base. So you can't just say, hey, school's over or my job's done and I'm gonna go do what I wanna do. Most cases back here in the country, that's true. So free time isn't quite free time. Living conditions. Living conditions are typically good. If you're living in the barracks, you're at your home station. But again, we're here to be prepared to go somewhere. That means training. That means going on conditioning hikes. That means carrying heavy weapon systems. There's a whole variety of things. Okay? Takes its toll. You're out in the field. You're living in a tent. You're not living in a house. You're not living in a barracks room. So that's another whole different condition you have to deal with. Physical sacrifice, again, those things I just mentioned, carrying weapon systems, going out there, running obstacle courses, it takes its toll on your physical body. You can only take so much. You're going to have some kind of injuries. Some cases, it's an injury that maybe you can recover from and you're good to go. So it's a temporary sacrifice, right? There's other times where you break a leg, lose a leg. Those are obviously very permanent kind of things. You're scarred with that. We live with that. That's another sacrifice. Another big one is the mental sacrifice. Think about those things that I just mentioned. All of those things have a mental toll on you. The stress that it put on you, whether it's your job in the Marine Corps for me, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, or the Coast Guard, or those family problems that come up, pay a heavy toll on you mentally, big mental stress. Couple that if you have to go into a combat environment, stress level goes way up. So there's a lot of variations of sacrifice that the veteran has to deal with and accepts that sacrifice, again, for the greater cause. So that young man that had that question about why we thank the veteran, I would leave that at the end of this assembly. I will let you answer that question yourself. Think for a second where else I was going with this. So we have Veterans Day set aside to say thank you, right? Just like we have other federal holidays, right, that are there to honor, to celebrate, and to be thankful for. All of those have their own special meaning. But I will ask you this. On President's Day, who here has had the opportunity to shake a president's hand and say thank you for being the leader of this great country? None. How about Columbus Day? Anybody here find Christopher and thank him for bumping into the country? None. Thanksgiving Day? Anybody run out there and thank a pilgrim? No. Well, guess what? On Veterans Day, federal holiday, you now have that opportunity on Wednesday or any day. You have the power to go out there and thank a living being for the whole reason we have Veterans Day. Here in Vermont, you have over 38,000 veterans, so plenty of opportunity. There's a bunch here just to say thank you. It's not that hard. I'm going to demonstrate. That took a whole 2 seconds. I want to share a story about why that's important. My last story. Again, opportunity arises. It never seems to fail me. This happened on the plane ride from Philadelphia to Manchester just the other day. I'm on the plane. Naturally, I had my uniform. I wasn't wearing it. I had this all hanging on a clothing bag, hanging up in the front part of the plane. I'm sitting in my seat, an aisle seat, holding my, what you would call a hat. Corporal has one in the stands. We call it a cover. You're familiar with it, the big white one, right? I didn't want to mess it up, so I'm holding on to this cover. The seat to my left is empty. A young woman comes up. She's going to be the one sitting there. So as she goes to take her seat, she looks down, she looks at me, and she says, "Are you a pilot?" No. I told her I was a retired Marine. And she said, "That's even better." I said, "Okay, good. We're making progress here." So she sits down and she just automatically begins to thank me for my service. And going on and on about understanding what the veterans sacrificed. I was like, gee, she's right in my whole speech. And of course I thanked her back, and we talked a little small talk, and then plane takes off, she sleeps the rest of the way. I thought, good, that way I can get some sleep. We land, time to get off the plane. I looked at her and said, "Hope you have a great day, enjoy your time in Manchester," or whatever she was going to be doing. And she looked at me and she said, "Can I have a hug?" I said, "By all means." So I gave her a hug. I say this to you because that's the power you hold in your hands. It doesn't have to be a hug. But to say thank you is pretty simple, but it is so powerful. Sometimes we as the veteran, we may not show great emotion to the appreciation for that, but I will tell you, personally for me, I'm sure for most others, your heart glows, it pounds a little harder. It means quite a bit inside, knowing that we did something and it's recognized. Not looking for it, but to get it means a world. So, that was my last story. I'll wrap this up here. Can I get all of my veterans to please stand and stand for a minute? If there's anybody else out there hiding because you didn't want to stand up front, I'd like you to stand as well. In closing, I'd like to thank you all for your attention, and I, again, am honored to be up front here to speak to you, but I don't want you to remember me. I want you to remember your veterans, okay? All of them. Do your part. Find some out and say thank you. Thank you.
The Rutland High School Band, led by Mr. Barnett, will now play their final song. Please stand as the VFW Post 468 Color Guard will now retire the colors.
You may now sit. Before we conclude our Veterans Day ceremony, we'd like to thank the Sociedad Honoraria Hispanica who helped plan this important event along with Ms. Alonso. Also, we'd like to thank the choir, band, and maintenance staff for contributing to this special day for us. A big thank you to all our guest speakers and the Rutland County veterans who attended this special day. It was our pleasure to recognize and honor your service to our country. Our students now have a better understanding and appreciation of your sacrifices to this great country of ours. Thank you again for making our Veterans Day ceremony possible. Finally, we would like to invite all the veterans along with the Sociedad Honoraria Hispanica and administration for a reception following the ceremony. RHS students must now return to B block. Thank you.